Welcome to a Chart Nerd technical analysis video. Today we will be discussing the likes of DMTR. The ticker is DMTR against USDT, and we'll be primarily studying the weekly time frame, looking at some key indicators here to see what might be coming next for DMTR. So do stay tuned. Nothing that I say is financial advice. Let's dive in. So before I actually get onto the charts, I just wanted to come over to a couple of my posts on X and give a quick breakdown of what I think is actually occurring here for DMTR. I do apologize. So used to bloody covering Velo. The DMTR low is somewhere around here. Higher lows on the weekly, symmetrical lows on the RSI, possibly an optimal opportunity, in my opinion, next leg up soon. So if we analyze this chart here, this picture that I took and posted on X, you can see that we've got these lows from back in August and September of 2024. Fast forward, we've got these higher lows that are building up now throughout January. So I think in the next few weeks, we're in a similar sort of position as we was to back in this low, and we either consolidate for the next couple of weeks and build a higher low, or we potentially come down and retest this zone once more for support at around 0.06 I think it is. And again, this was taken yesterday, so the price has changed a little bit as well. Earlier on today, but we're going to look at that in a second anyway. Focusing on this here, what I wanted to point out was the fact that we could have these higher low formations on the weekly time frame building up, and we could see a symmetrical bottom here. So we could have a symmetrical bottom, horizontal double bottom on the RSI, and a higher low in the price, which indicates some sort of bullish divergence that's building up over time. So that's something that I wanted to show you. There's also a second post that I posted not so long ago today, so earlier this morning, and it was about this right angled broadening wedge. So DMTR, the right angled broadening wedge breakdown target has been met. Consolidation on this area will lead to a higher low and an impulsive breakout leading towards January's end, in my opinion, not financial advice. So if we look at this little fractal here, again, we had this current local high at 0.25 cents. We came down to these lows in July to September August and September last year. We've come up, and then we formed this right angled broadening wedge where we had this level of resistance that was ascending, and we had this horizontal level of support. So we were stuck between a rock and a hard place. We put in these higher highs compared to the previous sort of weeks here, and eventually it broke down and lost this support. So we had higher highs on the in the price action over a long period of time, and we had a horizontal level of support that was eventually lost. Now the breakdown target was measured by going from the final level of resistance back down to support, and you can see once you drag the target down from when you lose support, the DMTR actually came and met that target in late December. So since then, we've been caught between a rock and a hard place, and you can see that the candles we've had over the last 2 weeks have just run back into this previous support that's now acting as resistance. So I think that we're in this sort of consolidation range throughout January, very similarly to how we was in August and September, where we came to a low, consolidated for a few weeks, formed some sort of double bottom here, and then got the breakout, which led to this right angle broadening wedge, which is now broke down. The target has been met. The only thing that concerns me are these wicks down here at the bottom. Potentially, we could come in and fill those wicks in. And if we do lose this wick low, then you've just got the wick low of August/September to look for as support. And I think that we're just building up this base here before literally taking off and pushing onto higher targets. So I think once we start reclaiming 10 cents and start getting our heads back above that water there and holding this previous support that's now resistance and reclaiming it as support, I think this will give the game away to when DMTR is looking for its next move out of the woods. So getting over to the charts now, if we look at DMTR here, I've got nothing on other than the stock RSI at the moment. Now I wanted to use the stock RSI to help, again, give us some sort of indication that around here or around this sort of low is where I think DMTR is looking to bottom out. Now if we analyze prior lows, so if we highlight these lows quickly, on the chart here, and we analyze the stock RSI. If we go back to January 2023, you can see in this period when the chart was in the floor, the stock RSI was in the floor, and it gave opportunity to a massive breakout that led going into 2024. So this was from the 9th of January. So in fact, today of January 2023, I was going to say last year, was when DMTR really started picking up on the weekly and putting this massive move all the way until April. Now again, if we fast forward to this local bottom here, which was between August until October, you will notice that the stock RSI was in the floor, but it was in there for quite a while. And even though we came down to the oversold areas, the price still from then continued to decline. So although we was in this sort of low zone down here, it took quite a while and further decline before we actually got the neck out of the woods on this impulse, before we started climbing here and pushing onto higher targets in 2024 for April. So what I'm trying to say is these points of contact, when you're down here in the floor on these areas, the stock RSI is in the floor, and this is where it's providing optimal opportunity. So right now, fast forward to January of this year, we're again in the floor. Now, I'm not saying that this can't drag on for some while and we can stay extended down here for a few weeks. It's a high potential, but again, these are the sort of areas in the RSI and when the price is in the floor that you want to be buying. You don't want to be getting in at these peaks. You can see at these peaks here in the RSI, you would have been wrecked. If you bought these peaks in the stock RSI up here, you'd have been wrecked. If you'd have bought this peak, you wouldn't have necessarily been wrecked because we did come in for a higher low, but it would have been tricky because the consolidation period for such a long time before the next leg up. And then again, if you'd have bought these peaks up here, very similar to these peaks from back in 2023 in the RSI, stock RSI, you would have been in trouble. So the idea is just you could literally trade, guys, on the weekly time frame. When you're in the floor, buy low down here for a few weeks, wait for that impulsive move to take us up to the overbought regions, and then that might just give the game away as to when the next sort of exit point could be for DMTR. So really and truly, I just wanted to look at the stock RSI on the weekly and show that it's in the floor. Historically, these are the good times to get involved in a project, and considering we're sort of prime alt season and sort of looking for that next leg up, I don't think these opportunities are going to last too long. So nothing that I say is financial advice, guys, but that there is sort of showing me, along with the the symmetrical bottom in the RSI, that is a potential, and with the fact that we've met the right angled broadening wedge breakdown target, there's some confluence here that I think the lows are around here somewhere, and this could last, I think, towards the inauguration for Trump. I think that's a very important time, and if we do see some sort of flash crash for Bitcoin, I would expect DMTR to potentially, if it does lose this wick, just come back and touch base on these 0.05 lows of August from 2024. And I think that it's just another sort of consolidation period. In fact, it could be very similar to what we've seen here in the past for DMTR, from October leading all the way to sort of February of 2024. And this was a long consolidation period where it just initially went sideways for quite some time. So if we're in a similar sort of period where we've come up from this impulsive move, we had this impulsive move, corrected, we've come up, put a lower high in, and have pushed back down to support. So down here we had the impulsive move, corrective, pushed back up to these were lower highs on candle closes, and then we just consolidated for a few weeks before exploding. So we've had the correction. I think we're consolidating, looking for that low, the stock RSI is on the floor, and then we look for continuation leading towards the end of January. I mean, the only sort of really bearish signal that I can point out for us right now is the fact that on the weekly, DMTR does have a bearish cross, and this was put in on the 16th of December. Now, the last bearish cross, if we're to analyze, formed on the 22nd of July. Now, from when this cross actually formed, on the day that it formed, the 22nd of July, it took, I think, about 2 to 3 weeks to actually put the low in, and it crashed 47% before recovering. So if we analyze from this bullish cross on the weekly that we're looking at now, and if we go from a rough 40-something% correction, you can see that it takes us back down towards these lows. So if we do start coming back any further and don't put in a higher low, I would at least expect a symmetrical low here if we're to see a rinse repeat move, very similar to the last sort of death cross that occurred. And it was the following sort of few weeks after that cross formation where we put the low in. So normally what tends to happen is when you form the death cross, the lows are very close. Form the death cross, the lows are very close. If you look at the bull cross, when the bull cross was formed, the last bullish cross, if you look at it, that was the local top. So what I'm trying to say here is death crosses, when they do form, at least a week or two after, tend to mark a local bottom. So I think the few weeks here is reason to why I believe we're just consolidating like we did back in sort of August and September of last year, and we're doing very similar now before looking for continuation. So it's all just, again, the bearish sign is we've put the death cross in. The good news is we're sort of relatively looking like we're halfway through that correction. We've got the bullish outlook on the stock RSI. The RSI looks to be coming in for a symmetrical double bottom, which could provide a bullish divergence moving into the future. I think signs are pointing towards this correction nearly being over more so than it just starting. I think that's what I'm trying to get at here for DMTR. Now, before I go, that was just a quick update and I wanted to show you guys the key moving average that we need to reclaim on the macro for DMTR here is this 20 EMA. Now, there's so many projects that have run up into this key EMA as of recent and have seen rejection, the likes of Velo. Many other projects have run up to their monthly 20 EMAs and meeting them as resistance, which I think is completely normal. So once that's actually reclaimed, which currently sits at around, where is it? I think it's about 13 cents actually. Where are we? Yeah, so it's around 13 cents and this is obviously creeping down over time. So once that actually gets reclaimed, I think this is where we're looking for the real sort of fun to start for DMTR. Now, if we're to analyze the potential targets moving forward for DMTR here, I think that at a minimum, even more confluence here, guys. This 17 cents at the 050 is a key level of resistance to reclaim as well as the 20-month EMA. And this is the 050 on the way back to the all-time high. So this was a very strong level of resistance. You can see we came back in a falling channel, pumped up, but we've been rejected by the monthly 20 EMA and are coming back now for another low. So again, this is why I say it's so important to hold this low of August to invalidate any further downside. But on the weekly, as I was mentioning, when the bullish crosses do tend to occur during an uptrend, I think it kind of points towards closer to a bottom than a top. So what I'm looking for here is once this 050 is reclaimed, I think we have the chance to push to 48 cents for DMTR and then getting really exciting before getting to the all-time high. If we start getting really euphoric, you've got $1.96 and then of course the all-time high at $11. I think all of these targets on the way up to that all-time high are achievable this cycle for DMTR here, and it's just a matter of time before we do start picking up the pace. It might also be important to note that we have why this dip might have also occurred is this previous support from January 2023 where we came up to these highs. We came back to look for its support, but when we formed the last death cross, we actually lost that support and then we ran into it as resistance multiple weeks on our right angled broadening wedge, which has then led to a fail of a breakout and a pushback here. So this is why it's so important these lows must hold, but I will keep us updated on this, guys. My long-term sort of macro outlooks, I think we could, once we reclaim the monthly 20 EMA at 13 and break above 18 cents, which is roughly our current sort of high around 23 cents. Once we actually break around through that, I think 48 cents to $2 is likely for DMTR on the cards. Now, if we do push up to $2 from here, you're looking at a rough 26x from current prices. And if we do get some would call it fortunate, some wouldn't, but if we do come back for a retest on this low, you're then looking at a rough 34x moving forward up to that $2 target. So nothing that I say is financial advice, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the content today. Just a little bit of a breakdown. Overall outlook, I think the lows are probably near, more so towards the end of January, a bit more of a choppiness over the next couple of weeks whilst Bitcoin decides to make his mind up. And then I think we full send and continue on into Q1 of 2025. Nothing that I say is financial advice. From Chart Nerd TA, take care. Peace out.